Next tonight, a man's told a murder trial how he started a fire that killed his neighbour and her two young daughters at their flat in Nottingham. Jamie Barrow said he thought they were out at the time and he didn't intend to kill them. Well, this afternoon, Barrow made a personal apology to his victims' family in the public gallery. Our social affairs correspondent Jeremy Ball reports.
Fatoumata Haidara and her daughters Nima and Fatima were killed by the man next door. For the jury, a simple question: was it manslaughter or was it murder? They were trapped in their first-floor flat last November after petrol was poured through their letterbox, then set alight in the middle of the night. One man tried to rescue them by kicking down the front door, but he was too late. Today, Fatoumata's husband, Abu Bakr, came to watch their killer take the witness stand in court to give his own detailed first-hand account of a night that ended so tragically. Jamie Barrow said he didn't intend to kill his neighbours. He thought their flat was empty, he said, because he hadn't heard any noises and he hadn't seen them for several days. Barrow said his heart sank when he realised people had been brought out. "I realised I'd done something terrible," he said. Within hours, he'd handed himself in to officers making house-to-house inquiries. "I realised the enormity of what I'd done," he said, "and I felt an immense amount of guilt." Barrow told the court he started the fire because of a mental health episode. He said it was a release. He'd been starting fires for years because watching flames took away the stress of traumatic childhood abuse he'd suffered. And turning to Fatoumata's husband, Barrow said he wanted to apologise. "Every day I've regretted the loss of life," he said, "and I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart."
Well, Jeremy joins us now. Jeremy, do we know why Jamie Barrow snapped that night then?
Well, we heard his own account, Sarah, in court of a downward spiral, really. He'd lost his mother, he said he'd been depressed, he'd stopped taking his medication and described feeling useless because he wasn't bringing up his young son. And on the night this all came to a head, Barrow said he'd self-harmed, he'd been drinking heavily, the culmination of what he described as like an elastic band going off in his head.
And the prosecution have begun their cross-examination this afternoon, haven't they?
Yeah, Simon Ash KC suggested that Barrow simply wasn't telling the truth because it should have been obvious, he said, that Fatoumata and the girls were in their flat at the time. Why didn't he hear the kids arguing? Why didn't he notice the light on? And as he set fire to that flat, why didn't he see the pushchair right outside? We also heard that just around the time these two girls were pronounced dead, Jamie Barrow was asking about the fire damage to his own neighbouring flat and whether he could get compensation. And there'll be more of that cross-examination tomorrow.